In this season of change and fresh starts, can be so much to look forward to. But as we look back at the things that we're leaving behind, the things that will never quite be the same, one of the ways we might honor that is just by being sad or grieving it for a moment. In this episode, we're going to be talking about that side of change.
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time.
So as Emily was saying, there is a backside to new seasons, new beginnings, new change. And as we head into spring and winter is wrapping up, I had an experience that brought this to mind for me. Our son, Eli, recently moved out, and he's off on a church mission, and we're not going to see him for quite a while. And he left while I was on a trip. And so we said our goodbyes. We went sailing together for a week before he left. And so there was a lot of closure, but I came home to the house and it was the first time that he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I am so excited for him, for what he's doing. He's 19 years old. He's excited to be out on his own. He's so prepared. We're thrilled for him. At the same time, I just felt really sad. And I sat in the car in the driveway and had a good cry. And I just think that this notion that good things rolling forward in our lives is always going to be joyful and cheerful and happy it is all those things, but it also has a duality to it. It has this element of loss, because to gain something new, we have to give up something old.
Yeah, we're letting go of something.
We have to let go. And you were saying before we hit record that, a lot of times when we talk about dropping anchor, which is the last step in our coaching framework, that it's about a time for reflection and absorbing. So I guess, anyway, I think it's worth talking today a little bit about moving into new beginnings and what that means for closure for things that we have to let go of to let the new things come into our lives.
Because we do typically focus on the positive and the looking forward and the anticipation and everything that we're excited about in the new. And when we are dropping anchor and reflecting, we think about look at everything that we've just accomplished and look what we've done, and drawing strength from that to see what else can we do. And in this scenario of our son leaving, like you said, he's very prepared. I do feel a sense of gratitude, a sense of accomplishment, maybe something that we've contributed to, but I sense it vicariously through him, just to see all of the growth that he has pursued and achieved to be ready to make this transition. And I feel very happy for him. And at the same time, as we packed his bags, I was so sad. And I like the word you use, duality, because I would never want him to say, you know what, I see you guys are really sad, I'll just stay home.
No.
I wouldn't want that for him. And I wouldn't want that for us. It's important to have these changes happen. And I know a lot of times when our kids were small and it would come time in the fall to send kids back to school again, and people would be sharing their back to school pictures or saying oh, they just grow up so fast, I just wish they wouldn't grow up. And I'm like, really? Do you really wish they wouldn't grow up? What if your child stayed 4 years old forever? How happy would that make you? It's part of what makes it so beautiful and joyful is that it just keeps moving forward, and that we got to experience this, and that it was precious because it's always changing. I knew them as a 4-year-old, and that was beautiful. But if they always stayed as a 4-year-old, we'd be at the doctors, we'd be like, "What's wrong? How come they're not developing?" And so just because we're sad doesn't mean that something is wrong. It means something really beautiful has happened, and part of honoring that transition is recognizing the loss, like the beautiful egg, that shell that has to break for the chick to emerge, right? Like we can say like, "Oh, that was beautiful, but it has to die so that the next thing can come to life." And it's okay to be excited about the new life coming forward, and to be sad about and grateful for the time that we had, the way things were.
I think the earliest example in my life of this feeling that I can remember easily is when I was in high school. You've heard me talk about this as post production letdown.
Oh, yeah, Eric was in so many high school theatrical productions.
So yeah, I would, and it was thrilling. I loved doing it. This is a time when I was actually on stage. I was an actor and a
Usually the
performer.
lead, yeah, with tons of obligation, tons of lines to memorize, like, so much writing on your performance.
Yeah. So, and I remember there's sort of, this might be a little jargony, but we would have tech week, which is where you rehearse all the lights and the sound and the costumes, all those elements that come in at the end. And it's very intense. You have multi-hour rehearsals that would go late into the night. And in high school, that was kind of an unusual thing to be at school from 3 till
10,
nine
yeah,
or
9.
10. And but we'd run the show a couple of times, and then you do this night after night, and then you go into performances, and there's people there every night, and they're applauding, and you go after the show, everyone wants to visit, and you take pictures, and and it was sort of a high, and it was all consuming for a time. And then the final performance happens, and then everyone stays after, and you break down the set, and you take it out and throw away parts of it and put parts of it in storage, and all the costumes go back into storage, and everything that everyone borrowed from everyone's moms and dads gets returned, and the show just goes away. In a way, it literally disappears, and the only thing that you have left are the production photos and your memories. And I remember school would end at 3 or whatever, and I would go home, and I'd just be like, oh my word, I have all afternoon, all evening open. And it was a letdown after all of
Yeah.
that excitement and energy and coming together. And so at the same time, I would not want to maintain that pace forever. I would not want to always be in production and tech rehearsal, and the constancy of having a full day of school and then performances at night. Like, that was an unsustainable pace. And so I'm glad that it ended, but I was also sad that it
Mhm.
ended. And and oftentimes after I've achieved something big now, or something that was very all consuming comes to an end, I'll say, hey, Emily, I think I'm having a little post production letdown, so that because you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And so, those of you listening, I'm curious if you examine your life and you think, what are some times when I've felt a little melancholy, a little sad, um, after a time of closure? And maybe this just helps you give away, a label for it, a way to call it or describe it. Because if you don't know what it is and you don't necessarily recognize it, it can be very disorienting. And so knowing what it is and being able to label it, know that it's temporary, I think can be helpful.
And I think for us, in this go around, it comes around in different, maybe amplitudes, right?
Hmm.
In levels of intensity, because I've seen this with each of our children. Um, you hear the phrase empty nest, right? And we like to think of ourselves as bird launchers, like we're helping our kids launch from the nest. And if we're using the bird theme, I would, starting with our oldest, I would see that she loved our family. We loved having her home, but also that it was too small for her wings to really fully spread, being in our care and protection. And it was like her wings were clipped being at home, and we really wanted her to be able to like fully spread her wings. And make all of her own decisions and not be considering us or the impact on our family or things like that. Just, fly away and, return for visits, but do her own life. Like, I could sense it that we are holding her back now. We used to be nourishing her and helping her move forward, but we've come to that juncture where we're a limiting factor, and we're excited to see her grow. And we saw that with, then the second child, then the third child, and now the fourth child. And I think what's different here is that we have 5 children, and our fifth child has Down syndrome, and she's great and amazing and very chatty and involved in lots of different activities, but she's not at a level of development where she could be independent, that she could live independently. And so as our son is leaving, we're kind of looking at each other and our youngest, and there's a possibility that she might join some kind of program that gives her a little more independence from us. It would just mean other people helping her.
Mhm.
But it kind of feels like this is as empty as our nest is going to get. And so with this fourth child leaving, it not only is it the end of him being home with us as our child and not just as an independent adult coming for visits, but it's kind of we're circling around the conclusion of our full-time child rearing kids at home season. Like, we know Lily still has a year of high school, but we also know this is maybe just how it's going to be for us
For
for
the
the
next,
rest of our lives.
at least, yeah, next 10 years or beyond. And maybe that's it.
It's a
And
little bit it's a little bit extra.
and I think it kind of snuck up on me.
Mhm.
And I think that these moments can sneak up on all of us where you just realize, oh, that came up quicker than I thought, or in a way that's different than I thought.
Mhm.
And just circling back to what you're saying about Karina, our oldest, I love that when our kids come home to visit, after a while, they're kind of like, you know what? All right, it's been good to be home, but I need to get back to my life. And they don't want to stay too long. And
Mhm.
I know that there are plenty of kids that come home and need to stay or want to stay for longer. But just saying that they have, yeah, we in a way we'd be holding them back if they stayed with us.
Mhm.
And so I think it makes me happy that they're so satisfied with what they're doing that they're happy to dip in and spend the holidays or come for a stretch, but then they want to get back to what they've created for themselves.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
It's a good
and
rhythm.
we're happy when they're home, and we miss them when they're gone. So, yeah, this is part of, like, adulthood, right? Like, we recognize it's not gonna be one pure emotion at all times, that we can balance, like, this joy of seeing our kids do their thing and this little ache of knowing they're gone, you know?
And I'm trying to think of other scenarios beyond kids
Oh, sure.
because I think it can apply to. I mean, obviously, I was sharing the being in a play, in a school play
Mhm.
example. Um,
This could be as your health shifts, that things are never gonna be quite the same. I know with us as well, I don't know if Eric is aging, but I for sure am, and I think things are changing for me, and I think, "Oh, I may never go back to that person I was before," this may just be my new normal, and I'll be grateful for what I have and be grateful for what I was able to experience, but know that things are different now, and that's the natural way of life.
I think you have a lot of strong
I
years
have
ahead.
some I have some strong years ahead, but I'm definitely, feeling the shift. It's not the same as it used to be.
Well, also to get a little personal here, I mean, when we're recording this, it's we've just celebrated Easter, and Easter is about death and rebirth, and you can't have the new rebirth without the death.
Mm,
And
mhm,
as we celebrated the resurrection, it's impossible without the crucifixion.
mhm.
And whether you're Christian or not, I think
The
we all
metaphor
we
holds.
all recognize that for something new to come to life, something has to die. And actually, this takes me back to something that we've talked about for a long time, which is deciding. The word
Mm-hmm.
decide. To decide has side, CIDE, has some
It's a Latin
Latin
base.
for death. To decide literally means to kill off an option. If you're going to go left or right and you're going to decide, if you say I'm going to go to the left, you've just killed right.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing. There may not be anything wrong with right, and you're going to go left, or the other way around. But homicide, fratricide, pesticide,
Yeah.
all those things. It's about death, and so deciding and choosing a way forward is about. There's an element of death in the things that need to go away, or just like they fall away in order to give way to the new thing. And I think that there's beauty in that. Just like sometimes to build a new building, you have to demolish the old thing that's there. We would see this all the time in New York. Like there's only so much square footage. And so if you want to build something, you have to destroy something. And they would tear something down and build something new. And some people might think that's great. Some people might think like, oh, that's so sad that whatever was there, depending on what it was. In our neighborhood where we live now, they're very beautiful historic homes. And so as they started to get torn down and replaced, people were sad.
People were
So
sad.
it's not about, we don't want to kill everything in the name of the new. We want to know what we want to preserve, what we want to keep, what we want to cherish and carry forward. But the things that are no longer serving us or may have served their purpose and it's time to let them go, those things we can let go of.
And that can be really for any new habit that you are going to start. A lot of our kids have gotten really intentional about their health, and that means that some foods are getting displaced so they can eat more vegetables or drink more water, or some time is getting displaced by now maybe lifting weights when they used to be relaxing or something like that. So you might have something in your life where you're saying, I'm making a change. And it always does mean letting go of something that's old. And you may have all joy about that, or it may be like, hey, it's kind of hard to let that go. And it was nice when I could eat however many cookies I wanted
Why do you
and
gesture to
be
me?
fine. I'm just gesturing generally in your area. um, but it is a shift. And so however you're feeling, like, this is totally normal and even just a sign of appreciation and of how good things were.
And to connect it to sailing, I feel like you can never sail to two islands at the same time. It's just not possible. You can head in the direction of an island chain. And I remember when we were living on our boat and we had to choose whether we were in St. Martin and we had to choose whether we were going to go south and follow our friends down to Grenada and get out of
Mm.
the, for hurricane season, or if we were going to go north and head back towards home for us. And we had to decide. We had to kill off one of those options. In the end, and it was a bittersweet one, we decided to sail north. And all the details are in our book, Seven at Sea. But I remember that was a very bittersweet thing. And we had so many wonderful, beautiful experiences traveling north on our own. And we gained a sort of confidence and skill of being on our own that was a little bit daunting at first, but it strengthened us. And if we had gone south and sailed with our friends, I'm sure beautiful, wonderful, good things would have happened. But we had to make a decision, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the nature of life: is you come to a fork in the road, and you have to take it.
Yeah. So if
What
you're
did Yogi Bear say? When you come to a fork in the road, take it.
take it,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. So if that's you and you feel sad about it, it doesn't mean it's the wrong thing. It just means you're letting go.
What could go right? Hey guys, before we wrap up, two things. I want to give you the sailing update, and then I want to give you the sailing takeaway. We're going to be in Italy June 7th through the 14th. Currently 2 cabins available. There's that. We're going to be in Greece July 19th through the 26th. And then we're going to be in Croatia August 2nd through the 9th. So those are our European trips. And then we've got, jumping to the fall, we've got La Paz, Mexico, the Sea of Cortez. That's going to be October 20th through the 25th. British Virgin Islands, November 10th through the 15th. And then the Bahamas, December 8th through the 13th. So that's the lineup for the rest of this year. So if any of those sound fun to you, hit me up. We'll talk, see if it's fit. Also, At the end of our trips, I like to share what people have taken away. So I asked them a couple of questions. They're kind enough to share their answers with me and give me permission to share them with you. So here's a takeaway from somebody who came sailing with us recently. All right, Dodie, where are we at?
My biggest concern was getting in the water, because it's been one of the fears, to snorkel and jump into the water when it's not near the shore, or the shore, and just jumping into like deep water. That was one of my concerns. And so the water here was so beautiful and so clear and just was so beautiful and so inviting. And I jumped in and I snorkeled, and it was so wonderful, and I actually overcame my fear. So that was my biggest concern. And then what was the most delightful was, of course, the absolute beauty of the British Virgin Islands, the magnificent beauty. But even more than the beauty was the people. The people that I didn't know. I had no idea who. I as I mentioned, I had an expectation, and I had a feeling that the people that I was going to meet were going to be amazing, because Eric's amazing. And Emily, of course. Your energy attracts other good energy. And so I knew, I didn't even have a question that the people weren't going to be amazing. So that was the most delightful of all. And so if anybody is considering doing this, it's a hell yes. Do it. Because if it ain't a hell yes, it's a hell no. But make it a hell yes. Do it.
Awesome.